When you look at like a suspension bridge or a massive hydroelectric dam or even one of those sprawling data centers, the immediate visual you get is just, well, permanence.
Right, yeah. You
Yeah.
see all that concrete.
Exactly. We assume that because something is, bolted to the bedrock with a million tons of concrete, it's just inherently stable.
Well, I mean, we often confuse weight with control.
Yeah.
The assumption is always, if we engineer the structure and poured the foundation, then we dictate how the system behaves.
Right. But if you look at the data coming across our desks today for this deep dive, we're basically losing control of the concrete, the power grids, and the shipping lanes all at once.
Absolutely.
So we're unpacking a stack of updates from the August 5th, 2026 Daily Tech Reader, specifically the 4 p.m. news brief. And you don't just see isolated headlines here.
No, it's all connected.
Right. It's a deeply interconnected system. And it shows that the physical and digital infrastructure we rely on is just remarkably fragile. We're tracking, well, $1 trillion pivoting in the tech sector, this unprecedented environmental strain, and these global choke points that are just tightening all at exactly the same time.
Yeah, it's really a critical moment to examine the architecture of our supply chains. I mean, we're looking at a world where massive power struggles are happening simultaneously across, completely disparate domains.
Totally.
The leverage being fought over in physical global waterways is, it's directly mirroring the race to control the microchips powering artificial intelligence.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. And hanging over all of this is just the sheer compounding force of extreme climate conditions. It's severely stressing the foundational layers of all of it.
Yeah, so let's start with, I guess, the most traditional form of leverage, right?
Yeah.
Physical geography.
Right, the waterways.
Yeah. The briefing details this proposed agreement between Iran and Oman, and it would essentially grant Tehran functional control over commercial ships entering the Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz.
Right, and to really gauge the gravity of that, you have to look at the immediate pressure on global shipping right now.
Which is immense.
Exactly. Negotiators are just desperately trying to restore predictable commercial shipping because of, well, the ongoing Houthi threats to Saudi tankers down the Red Sea.
Right.
Shipping companies are dealing with these skyrocketing insurance premiums and just massive, unpredictable route delays.
I mean, the Strait of Hormuz is essentially the world's most high-stakes toll booth.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Like 20% of the world's global oil supply passes right through there. And the financial markets are, clearly on edge. Oil prices have stabilized near, $79 a barrel?
Yeah, around $79 waiting for confirmation on this exact deal.
Right. But if Tehran gets the keys to this toll booth in the name of, ensuring dependable shipping, isn't that just a massive geopolitical paradox?
How do you mean?
Like, we're relinquishing control of a critical artery just to secure it.
Well, yeah, but that framing assumes the international community has, like, a readily available alternative to stabilize things.
Oh, and they don't.
Right, they really don't. What you're seeing here is a classic diplomatic trade-off. The differing accounts coming out of Washington and Tehran really highlight how these negotiations work in practice.
Just trading leverage, basically.
Exactly. Concessions that are made for immediate economic relief, like trying to keep oil at $79 to prevent this cascading inflation crisis, those inevitably alter the long-term balance of power.
Wow.
They're essentially trading a short-term supply chain crisis for a long-term strategic shift in naval authority.
And that strain is visible across the entire international network right now. I mean, the brief also mentions Russian missile strikes in Kyiv, killing at least 17 people.
Right, which prompts urgent demands for air defense resources.
Right, and at the exact same time, you've got diplomatic friction rising over, of all things, visa policies between Washington and Brazil. It's like the global administrative system is just highly tense everywhere.
It is. Geopolitical leverage is, a very intentional way to choke a supply chain. But nature, the atmosphere itself, is proven to be a much more indiscriminate choke point.
Yeah, and that leads directly into the environmental data in this brief, which honestly, it forces a total reevaluation of how we even view weather.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, Researchers are noting that 2026 is currently the third hottest year ever measured, and that's before El Nino even reaches peak effect.
Yeah, it's staggering.
Austria hit an all-time record of 41.2 degrees Celsius. The Vatican literally had to move its weekly audience indoors just to protect the participants.
Right.
And here in the U.S., I mean, we've got extreme heat warnings for California's Central Valley hitting 114 degrees, and Houston is just trapped in a heat index of 108.
Right, and obviously the human health hazard is severe. But the secondary effect, the one people miss, is structural. High ambient temperatures literally degrade the efficiency of our physical energy infrastructure.
See, this blows my mind. Because I usually think of a heat wave purely as, like, a human hazard, right? Like, avoiding the sun, drinking water, running the AC.
Sure, that's how most people experience it.
But the briefing explains how this heat literally breaks the power grid. Like, the nuclear plants in Europe are shutting down, but not because the wires are melting, right? It's because they don't have enough river water to cool down.
Yeah, exactly. It's an engineering failure point called a thermal bottleneck.
Okay, break that down for me.
So a traditional pressurized water reactor uses uranium to boil water, which creates steam that skins a turbine.
Right, standard power generation.
But to keep that cycle functioning safely, that steam has to be condensed back into a liquid. So these plants draw in millions of gallons of river water just to absorb that excess heat.
Wow, millions of gallons.
Yeah. So when a river like the Danube drops below a certain depth, or if the water temperature itself gets too warm, the laws of thermodynamics just dictate that the plant cannot condense the steam fast enough.
Oh, I see.
The reactor physically cannot operate at full capacity without risking a meltdown.
So that's why Hungary's nuclear plant went completely offline, and the government had to literally beg residents to reduce their electricity use.
Correct. And Slovenia's Krško nuclear facility, they had to reduce their output for the exact same thermodynamic reason.
That is wild.
And it's not just power. The Rhine River in Germany is exceptionally low right now, which is disrupting all the cargo barges carrying coal and industrial chemicals. The logistics network just freezes.
So wait, at the exact moment when millions of people need maximum electricity for air conditioning just to survive this heat, the weather is forcing utilities to shut off the taps.
Yes. The painful irony is that our most advanced energy technology is still entirely tethered to the depth of a local river.
It's a crazy negative feedback loop. We think we've engineered ourselves out of nature, but a dry riverbed can still just pull the plug on a modern city.
Exactly.
And when fundamental systems like that start fraying, that stress immediately bleeds into domestic life and eventually right into the political landscape.
It absolutely does.
We're seeing this physical disruption directly impact the U.S. right now. The briefing highlights the old Trails fire near Spokane.
Yeah, that's a devastating situation.
It is. I mean, they have an arson suspect in custody, but the damage is done. Over 700 structures destroyed, 64,000 residents evacuated. And firefighters are out there battling hotter and hotter weather, threatening their progress.
And you have to think about the human cost there. The logistics of displacing 64,000 people overnight, it's just staggering.
Right, it breaks everything.
Yeah, an evacuation of that scale severely disrupts the regional healthcare supply chain. Suddenly, all those evacuees need prescription refills, dialysis appointments, and basic medical care right there in temporary shelters.
And the public health systems are already spread so thin. Like, the brief quickly notes, another alert investigators are tracking an illness outbreak linked to shredded lettuce at Taco Bell.
Right.
Which, sounds like a minor consumer thing, but when hospitals are simultaneously dealing with thousands of fire evacuees, every single additional public health burden just compounds that systemic stress.
Exactly.
And the electorate is processing all of this deeply chaotic environment right as we head into the November midterms.
Which is why we're seeing physical crises and cultural shifts actively mold the political map. Political strategists are analyzing these midterm primary results so meticulously as data points.
Right. So let's look at one of those data points from the brief. And just to be clear for you listening, we're looking at this strictly neutrally, just as a measure of the political climate.
Right. Strictly as a data point.
So the Democratic Senate primary in Michigan, Abdul El-Sayed won the nomination, defeating Representative Haley Stevens. And this sets up a highly competitive race against Republican Mike Rogers. But the sources point out this wasn't just a local race. There was heavy outside spending, massive disagreements over international policies, specifically Israel, which basically turned Michigan into a proxy contest for the direction of the Democratic Party. Can you untangle that for us?
Sure. So if you're tracking the midterms, This primary serves as a national test case. A proxy contest happens when outside groups pour capital into a race to test a hypothesis.
Gotcha.
And the hypothesis here was whether progressive candidates can actually build broad coalitions and win in these highly polarized purple battleground states.
Right.
So El Sayed's victory serves as a data point for progressive mobilization capability in this specific, highly stressed midterm environment.
Right. It's a test of coalition building. And the volatility isn't just in one party. The briefing mentioned several other political shakeups.
Yeah, the landscape is very reactive right now.
We've got Representative Chuck Edwards of North Carolina ending his campaign over inappropriate conduct findings. Then Ohio Representative Max Miller is being investigated over domestic abuse allegations, which he denies. There's even a near incident involving Donald Trump's helicopter near Reagan National Airport being reviewed. It just feels like the whole political system is highly pressurized.
It is. The electorate is anxious, the systems are strained, and it reflects in the political churn.
Yeah. And that localized fragility in our power grids and our politics, that is exactly why the financial markets are watching this next data point so closely.
Right, the tech pivot.
Because while everyday cities are struggling for basic wattage, a single sector is out there trying to buy up the entire future supply of commercial electricity.
We are witnessing what might be the most aggressive reallocation of capital in modern corporate history.
The numbers are insane. The briefing reveals that just 5 companies, Microsoft, Meta, Oracle, Amazon, and Alphabet, currently hold $1.09 trillion in future lease obligations for AI data centers.
Yeah, over $1 trillion.
$1 trillion. I mean, a lease usually implies renting an office space.
Yeah.
Like $1.09 trillion in leases isn't just paying the rent, it's buying the entire neighborhood before you even know if the factory works.
That is a perfect analogy.
What are they actually securing with that kind of money? Are they assuming some sort of hidden leverage?
Well, they're securing a monopoly on the future bottleneck.
Yeah.
These aren't just leases for land.
Okay, what else?
They are binding contracts that secure guaranteed electrical substation capacity, highly specialized cooling infrastructure, and massive fiber optic bandwidth over the next 10 to 15 years.
Wow. So they are locking down the grid itself.
Exactly. And we know this is real because industrial suppliers like Siemens Energy and Caterpillar are seeing absolute record orders.
Just to build the sites.
Yeah, just for the electrical infrastructure, the transformers, the generators, the heavy machinery needed to physically construct these massive campuses.
But they're committing $1 trillion before they even know if the specific AI products will turn a profit.
Well, that's where the tension is right now. The market is starting to forcefully demand actual returns, not just promises.
Right.
The honeymoon phase of, AI as a theoretical science experiment, that's completely over.
The sources actually draw a really interesting parallel to the pharmaceutical world to explain this.
Oh, right, the Novo Nordisk comparison.
Yeah, exactly. Novo Nordisk recently saw weaker than expected sales for their Wegovy weight loss pill, while Sandoz reported really strong sales across their diverse portfolio.
Right.
And the logic is, markets reward tangible demand. You have to prove your product solves a real problem right now. And the brief suggests that exact same standard is now hitting big tech.
It absolutely is.
Right.
Just look at the massive restructuring happening at Google.
Right. What happened there?
They just moved Dimas Hassabis, the chief of DeepMind, into a revised strategic role.
And he's the guy who built his reputation on using AI for pure science, right?
Exactly, like foundational discovery, protein folding, things like that. But Alphabet shares fell 4% after this news.
Wow, just on a leadership shift.
Because it exposes a huge internal tension. You have these scientific research divisions wanting to play a decades-long game of discovery, and that directly clashes with the corporate need for faster, measurable commercial returns to justify those trillion-dollar leases.
Yeah, you have to pay the rent eventually.
Yeah.
And that battle for control extends straight down to the physical hardware, right? The chips.
Oh, the hardware wars are fascinating right now.
The briefing notes that Anthropic is actively building an internal chip design team.
Right, to escape their reliance on NVIDIA.
Exactly. They want to control their own destiny. But then, on the flip side, you have SpaceX.
Yeah, that was a dramatic market reaction.
Their shares tanked 12% after their first public quarterly report because they revealed massive capital spending for their AI and Starlink networks, but they committed exclusively to using NVIDIA processors.
Right.
So SpaceX takes a huge hit, NVIDIA stock jumps 4% because they locked in this premier customer, and AMD falls 6% just because they didn't get the contract.
It perfectly illustrates this winner-takes-all dynamic in specialized silicon.
Yeah.
The investors are pivoting. It's all about measurable revenue and controlling the supply chain now. The companies providing the physical foundation, like NVIDIA making the chips or Siemens building the transformers, they're the ones capturing the immediate economic value of this arms race.
But, when you have $1 trillion moving at that speed, built on top of a physical energy infrastructure that we've already established, is highly vulnerable to the weather.
Right, the fragile grid.
Yeah, you end up with profound security gaps. The deeply connected nature of these systems creates massive vulnerabilities. It feels like the definition of containment is completely failing in both the real and virtual worlds.
That is a really crucial connection to make, because the scale and the speed of these systems just completely outpace traditional security perimeters.
Let's look at the physical security threat first. The brief mentions German authorities investigating this incident at the Leipzig-Halle airport.
Yeah, that's a strategically vital logistics hub.
Right. And a drone carrying PTN and Semtex explosives was discovered near Ukrainian cargo aircraft.
Which is terrifying.
Luckily, it failed to detonate, but a second unidentified object actually did strike a DHL cargo plane and caused minor damage.
Right, and PTN and Semtex, those are highly regulated military-grade explosives. But the real threat here is the asymmetry.
What do you mean?
You have a multi-million-dollar aircraft and a globally critical supply chain being directly threatened by a cheap, accessible drone.
Right, you don't need a missile anymore.
Exactly. It bypasses traditional airport security entirely. Cheap, tech-threatening vital facilities.
And the digital security threat is operating on that exact same asymmetric logic.
Absolutely.
The briefing outlines recent security breaches involving OpenAI and Anthropic agents. And to be clear for you listening, an agent isn't just a chatbot that writes a poem for you on a screen.
No, not at all.
These are autonomous systems connected to external tools. They have API access to interact with databases or email servers on their own.
And that distinction is vital. The moment you give an autonomous software model the ability to execute code on external networks, you introduce unprecedented vulnerability.
Because it's acting on its own.
Right. These breaches demonstrate just how dangerous it is when an AI is allowed to navigate outside its original sandbox. The containment fails.
So how are the institutions actually responding to this dual threat? Like cheap drones and rogue AI agents?
Well, the response is happening across the board. The briefing notes Jamie Dimon is organizing this huge cross-industry initiative specifically on AI risks.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and federal agencies are running voluntary cybersecurity tests with Meta, Anthropic, Google, and OpenAI.
But is it enough?
Well, the most revealing shift is what businesses are doing operationally. They are urgently adopting strict human approval requirements.
Okay, so hitting pause on full autonomy.
Exactly. They are mandating that before an AI agent can execute code or transfer data, a human have to authorize it. Human authorization is becoming the ultimate fail-safe in tech right now.
Because you just can't automate trust. And society is having to adapt to this lack of trust everywhere. Like the brief mentions public libraries are expanding instruction to teach people how to spot deepfakes.
Right, media literacy.
Yeah. Newsrooms are having to strengthen their verification procedures just to figure out if drone footage from a wildfire is actually real.
Which is incredibly difficult now.
And on a global scale, the World Bank is issuing direct warnings to developing nations, basically telling them, hey, you need to fix your foundational connectivity and workforce gaps before you even think about jumping into AI.
Right, because if you deploy an advanced energy-hungry AI system on top of a fragile electrical grid, you don't magically modernize the country.
You just break the grid faster.
Exactly. You merely amplify its existing vulnerabilities. And that warning from the World Bank really circles back to our initial premise today.
Yeah, how so?
You cannot sustain a robust digital economy if your physical infrastructure is literally collapsing under environmental or geopolitical stress.
Which really brings this entire deep dive into focus. I mean, we started by looking at the geopolitics of the Strait of Hormuz, where negotiators are trading long-term leverage just to secure short-term commercial shipping.
Right.
We looked at the extreme heat causing thermal bottlenecks, literally forcing nuclear plants to shut down because the rivers are too warm to cool them.
Yeah, the natural limits.
We tracked how that environmental and logistical stress shapes the domestic political map, driving proxy battles like that progressive victory in Michigan.
Right.
And finally, we watched big tech leverage $1 trillion to corner the AI infrastructure market, creating these severe security vulnerabilities that are forcing us to manually put human fail-safes back into the loop.
It's a profound structural transition. And the crucial takeaway for anyone listening is that none of these events are isolated.
No, not at all.
The climate constraints, the geopolitical leverage, and this trillion-dollar technological arms race, they are all operating on the exact same fragile grid.
And competing for the exact same resources.
Exactly. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. If our smartest AI models require more power than our rivers can currently cool,
Yeah.
and if our global supply chains rely on these fragile geopolitical concessions just to keep basic cargo moving, who will actually be the ultimate architect of our future infrastructure?
Wow.
Will it be dictated by the physical limits of nature, the politicians negotiating the choke points, or the tech CEOs signing trillion-dollar energy leases?
Who actually holds the keys to the toll booth of the future? That is such a compelling question to walk away with. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the systems operating around you, keep looking for those hidden mechanisms driving the headlines, and we will catch you next time.